She and Desire, the podcast where we explore being black, kinky, and navigating various emotions and relationships in the kinky world. I'm your host, Sparkle, and I am so happy to be here with you guys today. This podcast has been in the works for almost 6 months, and I am so happy to share with you everything I've learned from being in kink, the lifestyle, and also my challenges in the kink world as a black woman. So come along with me. So I'm Sparkle. I am 25 years old. Oh my god, I sound so old, but that's okay. I have been kinky for almost 3 years and been in the kinky scene for almost 3 years. So I think I know a little bit about what I'm talking about. Actually, I'm quite positive of knowing some of the things I'm talking about on the podcast. But as always, open to learning and hearing from you guys about the things you're experiencing, even if you're just not POC and being in the kinky community, but mostly if you're POC and in the kinky community. So this podcast, I made it so that other POC or black people have a place to talk and be unapologetically themselves and just say whatever they feel like they need to get off their chest in the kink world. As you know, kink is made up of mostly white people, and finding black people sometimes can be hard, especially if you're not in a predominantly black area. So I experienced that being where I lived a little bit before I ventured out and started making my own friends and started seeing more POCs and started experiencing the wonderful life of kink that I have. So this podcast is just to share that you can enjoy being black and kinky. So let's dive in. This episode, first we're going to talk about some kink terminology that, you know, I'm sure everyone knows, but I would like to just run down with it so that everyone has a bit of an understanding of what is what, right? We're going to talk about kink. So kink is described as a non-conventional sexual practice, fantasies, or concepts. So they could be pleasurable activities that people choose to do together that, you know, the regular folk or the vanilla people won't consider pleasurable. But you know, to us, we're having a great time. This kink term will fall under BDSM for some, and for some people it could just fall under being in the lifestyle, which you can understand that being in the BDSM world and being in the lifestyle, it's literally two different things. I know some people don't like to say that, but it's really two different things. To me, being kinky is being in the BDSM world. You know, having the impact, having that sensory play, having those dom-sub dynamics. While being in the lifestyle, I think of lifestyle as people who are mostly swingers and mostly in that space to have fun and have their sexual pleasures met. So that's how I consider the difference between BDSM and lifestyle. Everybody else have their own type of definition for both, and I am not here to tell you you're wrong. I'm just giving you my 2 cents. You can take it or you can leave it, for real. So let's talk about what is BDSM, right? So BDSM, bondage, dominance or discipline, submission or sadism, and masochism. So activities, fantasies, or scenes that involve some type of dynamic power, right? Or exchange of dynamic power between consenting adults. You hear me? Consenting. You have to have consent to do these things. If you don't have consent, so you're doing something wrong, and you shouldn't be doing it. Period. Let's continue. So with BDSM, right, someone can have a physical control over a person for an extended or a short period of time depending on the dynamic that they have with them, right? So some people have a dom-sub dynamic that is 24/7, and some people have a dom-sub dynamic that is just when they're playing. And personally, I normally just, I have a dom-sub dynamic that is mostly for play. It's not 24/7 in my life. It's mostly for when I go to events and play parties. That's what my dynamic looks like. So lifestyle, right? Non-monogamous, I'm sure you've heard of that. Polyamorous, or if they don't identify as either of those, they can say they're swingers. Which is, sexual practices that are non-conventional, again, to the norms of monogamy. I came from the BDSM world to the swingers world. I took my little time and I slowly graduated over there, and I took a peek and I dipped my toe in, and I was like, you know what, it's not that bad. It's really not that bad. Would I advise someone to just jump into a swingers event? No. It can be quite traumatic if you don't know what you're doing. Hence, my first swinger event left me some trauma. We'll get into that later on. But I always recommend doing your research, know what you're looking for, and having your boundaries if you're going to any kind of event, because you can be traumatized and you don't want to. Another thing, people think that kink means you're gonna have sex constantly. No. For some people, that's not the case. You're not gonna always have sex. And kink for most people doesn't mean they're having sex. They're just exploring what they are and exploring the dynamics that they're building with the people, right? So let's talk about what you can get from kink, right? And kink it's the feeling of like a rush of endorphins from a scene, right? So that's what Google said, that kink is a feeling, a rush of endorphins from a scene. And you will see this when you do, or if you engage in these kind of play. If you get super excited, you get this adrenaline rush, and it's quite amazing. So that's like just the gist of kink. So let's talk about kink theory, the things that keep you safe in kink. So we're going to start off with SSC, which is safe, sane, and consensual. Safe, sane. And you hear the last part? Consensual. Everything in this needs to be consensual. Don't forget that. So, feeling safe with the partner, making sure that the activities, that you're doing, you're in a sane space of mind, and having consent. So that's one of the theories that someone might use. That when you're talking to them, they're like, oh, I follow SSC, safe, sane, consensual. There's also RAC, which is much more popular in the BDSM community, which is being risk aware, having consent, and kink. So, having knowledge of the risks of the activities that you are engaging in with someone, or even just by yourself. Again, having consent, and, having that knowledge that activities sometimes can end up becoming unsafe. So being able to hold that responsibility and have that accountability for yourself and the people that you're playing with. Another one is PRICK, P-R-I-C-K. Personal responsibility, being informed, having consent, and kink. So it's basically the same thing as the other two. So P just means, you're having the personal responsibility. I, being informed, C, having consent, and kink, having to know that not all kink is gonna be sometimes safe. So these are the theories you'll hear some people go by, that these are what they play by, these are there are rules, like they ain't playing. This is what it is. And I always say to someone, make sure you know what kink theory you are. They all kind of to me mean the same thing, but some people are much more hardcore BDSM and they gonna tell you that it's not. So choose one you want to play by. So as you've seen from the kink theories, that one thing that keeps popping up is consent, right? You have to have consent. You need consent to do something. You can't touch anyone without consent. If it's not an enthusiastic yes, I'm going to take it as a no. That means that we're not playing and we ain't doing nothing. Because you don't have consent and you need consent. How would you feel if someone's just doing something to you that you don't want and you didn't give your consent? You wouldn't feel right? So, yeah, let's not do that. So let's talk about some misconceptions in kink, right? Especially being black, being a woman in a predominantly white space. So kink in general, most people think that only men can be dominant. No, women can be very dominant. Or that only women should be submissive. No, men can be submissive too. That's okay. Or male presenting or femme presenting can switch the roles. It's not set to just one specific person based on their gender. So that's one thing that it's a misconception, and that's not true. That BDSM is not about consent. It's about someone having all the power, and that's it. I don't know if you were listening earlier, but like everything I've been saying comes down to consent, right? So you need consent to be in BDSM. Mind you, you will find some people who don't use consent in the form of CNC, but that's a different story. That still has consent, but some people try to twist that. So we'll talk about that later on. Another misconception is that people who are kinky must have had some form of trauma in their life. I don't think that's true. I don't think that everyone that's kinky have had some form of trauma. Have people just had trauma in general? Yeah, for sure. Do people use that to cope? Of course. Don't most people in the normal world? Right, but that does not mean just because someone's kinky, they've had trauma and now this is what turned them to kink. That's not always the truth. So that's something that, be mindful. So another thing we're going to talk about, diversity in kink. Mainly what this podcast is about, right? Being diverse and having that space. You may not see a lot of POC people in kink when you first start. You may not. I know I didn't. I did not see a lot of black people at my very first kink event. I think I saw one black person and I was scared. I went in and I was like, what the heck did I get myself into? Am I the only black person in here? I was so scared. I was so scared. But, I had my partner with me and I felt safe. But when you don't see your own people in a space, you get a little anxiety, a little anxious, and you just like, I don't think I should be here, right? But you may experience that for sure. Again, like I said, kink is dominated by white people. It's the truth. Some people don't like to talk about that, but it's the goddamn truth. This one be rubbing some feathers to the opposing side, and you will hear these things if you're in kink. Black people will be called or can be called or experience some form of being called an ebony queen. Black men will either call themselves or be called a bull. And you will experience a white person calling themselves a queen of spades. This is what you'll hear. Now, you want to embrace that? Sure. You don't? Kudos. So, what's a queen of spades? It is a white woman who predominantly rather to have engagement with a black man, predominantly just black men in general, and that's all they want. And they have that little spades tattoo somewhere on their body. To me, it gives ownership, and I don't like it. So be mindful. There is that. Men calling themselves bulls. Honestly, I don't get what most black men get from calling themselves a bull. You know, we've come so far from back in the day, and calling yourself a bull to appease people. I don't know. It don't sound right to me. It just doesn't. But you know, do what you want to do, baby. I don't want to be called Ebony Queen. I'm sorry. It's just, it gives me the ick. Don't call me that, and don't call me chocolate. The white people in these spaces love doing that. Don't call me that. That's not who I am. Especially in the swingers world. Ooh, they love calling you some form of sweet food. Don't get what that's about, but you know. In 2024, that being fetishized is not really a thing. It is, especially in the kink community. Oh, they won't play in your face. So you need to be able to stand on business and tell them people to stop playing with you. Because they will act like they don't know what the hell they're doing. They do. They do. You might be approached for race play. Some people are for it. I am not for it. And it's frowned upon. Well, from me, I be side-eyeing. I frown upon that shit. Why the hell, you know what, this might be considered kink shaming, but why the hell, as a black person, you're gonna be called the hard N with the hard R at the end? Have you lost your goddamn mind? You know what? It might sound kink shaming, but I don't like it. I don't like nothing about it. Don't do it. Don't engage in it. If you want to do it on your own terms. Don't do it in public. Let me see you. Don't let me see you do that shit. Because I'm going to look at you like you're crazy. Another one. This, I don't know if you can tell, but it'd be rubbing me the wrong way. Can you... Be nice. I'm finding it. Can you believe that some people still think that black people don't feel pain? Yes, yeah, you heard me. You heard me very much correctly. That black people don't feel pain. Huh? Yeah. Yeah. I don't even know what to say to that, because what do you mean I don't feel pain? What do you mean we don't feel pain? It's giving slavery. It's giving how the masses used to beat us and shit. That's what it's giving. Yeah. I'm gonna leave that one off and let you think about that. I don't have nothing more to say about it. Alright. So, forums where you can interact with other POCs or just people in general, find events and stuff like that. One is FetLife, FETLIFE. You can find munches and events. You can also find ratchetness. You can also go down a deep, dark hole and find some shit you wasn't looking for. So take that with a grain of salt, okay? I use it mostly to find munches, events, and meet other fellow POCs. That's the only reason why I'm on there. So use it to your discretion. I don't know if you know, but like TikTok and Instagram, oh my god, there are so many POCs who are kinky, who are thriving and sharing their knowledge and sharing their experience. And follow them. Look at the hashtags. They're there. You will find your people. And they are some amazing, amazing people. So that's really it for episode 1. So episode 1, what did we talk about? We talked about some kink terminology, the kink theory, being diverse or seeing diversity, and some of the misconceptions that you hear from being in kink, and also some forums where you can find your fellow POCs, events, and munches. So I want to say thank you for joining me today. I would love to hear any comments, feedbacks, stories you want to tell me so I can share them with you guys. So thank you for joining me. I'm your host, Sparkle, and I want you guys to keep being open-minded. Be weird if you're weird. I love that. I'm weird too. And don't ever feel scared or shy about being black and kinky.